Well, today we are going to do the design on the bookshelf. We're going to go rather quickly through it, and I will stand away from the board as much as possible so you can take your notes on this. I want you to take notes on this on a loose leaf piece of paper and then put it in your 3-ring binder when you come to school. So just keep that in mind. So I want you to do a sketch off the computer, and then I want you to bring the sketch to the school and then put it in your 3-ring binder. So, and this is for the bookshelf, and so let's start with the top. There's some dimensions that determine everything else, and so this is the top. Actually, I started way too high, so let's get rid of that and come down a little bit so I have room for a dimension. There we go, that looks better. All right, and we're going to come down and make our sides. Just trying to make it as nice a sketch as you can. Just making a straight line sometimes is not as easy as it looks, or not having them be the same length, otherwise it looks really crooked. Let's just try to get a nice line here. There we go, that looks pretty good. All right, and we're going to put in our toe kick. I'll need an extra board across the top, similar to our nightstand, and that is going to be the support for across the top front, and it'll give us a place to screw into the top. So I'll have 3 shelves in here. Dash lines are the shelves, obviously. All right, so let's start with our height. The other thing to kind of remember about this whole thing is I made this out of 2 planks. And so I've already processed the wood, or the wood is processed in such a way from like Menards or something, so that actually is a 12-inch wide board by 8 feet long, which is 96 inches. The width, however, is somewhere between 5/8 and 3/4. And we may have to adjust for that at a future time. But this year, you'll have my boards. Because of the pandemic, I cannot find the boards that we need from Menards this year. So let's start out from top to bottom. I've already determined a lot of these dimensions, and that's why I'm not having to do a lot of calculation to figure them out. So this total height from here to the bottom is 48 inches. Okay, this top is 3/4 of an inch. What we're doing is we're putting enough dimensions on the drawing so that we'll be able to determine what our cutting list is going to be. The cutting list will be over here. This first dimension, as I said, this has all been thought through pretty carefully. So this height will be 21 1/4, or no, not the height, but the width of this board. And again, so we have 1 plank that'll be taken up with our sides, and the other plank will make all these vertical pieces, with the exception of the toe kick and these little pieces up there. They're made out of 1x3s. So anyway, and then we'll have a back on the back of it. So, okay, so we got that. So this height for letter A, eventually this is going to be letter A. That's going to be 47, not 44, 47. So 47 1/4, okay? Well, this thing didn't want to draw right off to the tip. All right, so that's 47 1/4. So this is 21 1/4, so in order to find out what the width of the actual cabinet chassis is, you got to know this lip distance, and it's 3/4 on each side. Okay, so that's that. So 21 1/4 minus 1 1/2. Do a little bit of work down here. Quarter minus, oops. Best way to do is just write it out 3/4 times 2. If you ever don't know what that is, you can label underneath. I usually put a caret mark and then put lip in this case, so that you know what you're subtracting. Because 21 1/4 is the length, we know what that is. It's already been labeled. So 21 1/4 minus 1 1/2, which is 3/4 minus or times 2 is 1 1/2. We're going to subtract 1 1/2. Okay. So 21 1/4. Let's see how can we do that quickly and easily. Not a really easy way. So if we just subtract 1 from 21, that's 20. But we know we're going to be a little bit less than that because we got a half here minus that. So it's 20, and then we're going to subtract from that, so it's actually 19 3/4. Because if we put 1 full inch and subtract it from the quarter, it's going to end up at 3/4. Clear as mud, I suspect, but here you are. So it's going to be 19 3/4. So this distance from here to here (19 3/4). It's got to be legible enough for you to understand what it is. I'm having a hard time writing sideways today. This toe kick height is 3 inches. And if any of your notes are in your way or confuse you, you should probably just get them out of there. So that's what I'm going to do right here. Just get rid of this stuff. But if you have a scratch piece of paper, I would save the scratch piece of paper so you can follow along with what you're doing. Okay, so this will be letter B. This will be letter C. This will be letter D. The shelves are shelves, and this back piece will be letter E. All right. I may or may not have told you labeling is kind of subjective. You can move it around, and sometimes I just write the word. In fact, sometimes for the back, instead of giving you a letter, I'll just call it a back, B-A-C-K. So anyway, well, now let's start with the calculation. So we'll come up with our standard method of writing down for our material list and our cut list. So actually, it's just a cut list. So we write label, quantity, and size. And at the very end, you can put material. Okay, so letter A, you know that this depth on this top, I usually do that with a ray, and that top is going to be 12 inches deep. And so letter A is going to be 3/4 of an inch shallower than that, because we have our 3/4 lips, and it's going to be the same. The only thing is on the back side, we're not going to have 2 times, it's just going to be flat across the back. So it's going to look like this. So here's your letter B, and then it's going to be flat across the back. And then this is our letter A. And that's going to be 3/4. Okay? So it's 12 less 3/4, which is 11 1/4. 11 1/4 by 47 1/4 high. Oh, that's under quantity. I gotta move it over. 11, jeez, this pen. 11 1/4 by 47. And our quantity should be right here, will be 2. And the material, almost all this, with the exception of one piece, is going to be basswood. I'm just going to abbreviate BAS. All right? All right, so then let's do letter B. So letter B is the top. So I've already said that it's 12 inches deep. Oh, we need 12 inches deep by 21 1/4. Basswood, just a ditto mark there. Okay, 12 by 21 1/4. It's going to be basswood, and just a quantity of 1. Okay, letter C, we're going to be using a 1 by 3. Okay, and it's actually 3/4 by 3 inches high. That's like a lineal footage. It'll always have that same profile. So for letter C, what we're going to do is we're going to cut one of those 1x3s in half. So we're actually, for letter C, we're going to have two of what I'm going to make here. So if we have a 3-inch board, subtract an 1/8 inch for the kerf, we end up with 2 7/8. Half of 2 7/8 is 1 7/16. Boy, that's really, this pen, I should try finding another one. Kerf. So, yeah, so it's going to half of 2 7/8 is 1 7/16. I'm going to end up erasing that because it's right where everything else is going to be. So it's going to be 1 7/16 by, okay, now we know our total width here is 19 3/4, but we got these two 3/4 inch pieces of wood here. So 19 3/4 minus 3/4 times 2. Well, we could take one of the 3/4 off right away, because we just knocked that off. Now if we subtract 3/4 from 19, it's going to be 18 1/4. So letter C is going to be 1 7/16 by 18 1/4. It's going to be made out of basswood. Okay. And letter D, this piece down here, we're going to have one of those 3 inches by the same length, because letter D and letter C are both inside this chassis. So you take the 19 3/4 and subtract the 3/4 and blah, blah, blah. You come up with the same answer, which is 18 1/4 made out of basswood. All right, and I have letter E as being the next letter, but I think we should do the shelves next. Just subtract this right here. So letter E, I'm going to use a capital, or let's just do a capital because we got a capital there. Okay, it's also the back. 1, and this one gets a little harder to understand what's going on, but on the bottom we're going to make a rabbit. So we're going to look at the bottom of this cabinet. I'm going to show you what it looks like here. So we have our side, and then we're going to have, it comes down and over and down. So this is letter A, okay? We're going to come over like this. This is our back. So this is going to be 3/8. And we're using 1/4 inch thick material. Okay? So what we're going to do is, we've already determined that the distance between these two is 18 1/4, but we got to add back on 3/8 times 2. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's 18 1/4 plus 3/8 times 2, which equals 19. All right, so we're going to put, for the back, we're 19 inches wide. I'm just going to put wide. Sometimes it makes a difference, because like if you ever see me draw a line like that, that's actually a grain line. I actually like the grain to stand up and down if I can. I think it looks better. It's just a matter of aesthetics, you know, and in a bind, it's like the shelf I already built. The grain runs the opposite direction, the horizontal way. And, you know, if that's the only piece of material I got and I got to spend $100 to buy a piece of veneer, I'm going to try to save a couple of bucks most likely and just run it the other way. You know, like I say, it will not hurt a thing. Most of the time you don't even see it. All right, so it's 19 wide. And then, let's see here. So we got a 3-inch toe kick, and we got a 3/4 inch top. Well, let's just start out with 47 1/4 because we're just going to screw it right onto the top. So let's see here. Let's start out with 47 1/4, okay, which is this distance. Now we got to subtract 3 inches, minus 3, oh, 3/4, minus 3, and then we need to add back on the 3/4 for the floor thickness, because behind here, oh, I forgot my behind D. Oh, boy, am I ever glad. That's why we make a plan, so we don't forget stuff. All right, that'll require a little explanation after a bit here. So anyway, we got 47 1/4, so we subtracted 3. Now we got to add back on a 3/4 inch wide floor. Okay, remember, I want you to draw this sketch out and all these dimensions. You don't have to do the math as long as it's correct. Okay, I'm doing the math this time, but hopefully if you're doing the math with me, you'll get how to do this. Anyway, 47 1/4 minus 3 inches plus 3/4 inch. All right, so if we are adding, let's see, 47 1/4 minus 3, let's do this first. We're going to subtract the 3 inches. All right, so 3 minus, actually we got to add. So if we add these two numbers together, that'll make it easier. We're right back at 48. So that's done. And then we're going to subtract 3 from 48. So you're going to end up at 45 inches. See, just a little trick there. As long as you're just adding and subtracting, it's okay to do it out of order. You just got to remember to do all the numbers. So that's why I just crossed it out. So it's going to be 45 inches tall. And this time, instead of for materials being basswood, we're going to have 1/4 inch pine. It's either going to be particle board or it's going to be MDF. Obviously these things, these letters, this is particle board, this is medium density fiber board. Particle board is not as strong as MDF, but MDF is substantially more expensive. So I'm trying to determine which is the best path to take on that for right now. For durability, I'd definitely do MDF, but we'll have to see how the cost comes out. All right, so now we have to go back to behind D. So let's just, there's probably space in there. So I'm gonna, behind for me is a comma. So it's a capital B with a comma. Usually I put it right after the letter so that it becomes clearer which one it's for. So and we'll have one of those. And then the size. Remember how I said we had this rabbit here? We're actually going to make a dado back here for that letter behind the D to fit into. So I'll just draw a quickie little picture here off the side. Go this way again. So then it comes down to the floor and we come back up 2 1/4 in, a 16th, back out. Okay, for those that don't remember, when you have a dado, there's 3 sides. So 1, 2, 3. When you have a rabbit, there's only 2 sides that you're cutting. So you have 2 sides that are in with 1 side that not in there. So we'd have 1 side, 2 sides. This has 1, 2, 3 sides. Dados have 3 sides, rabbits have 2. Okay, and then our floor is going to fit inside here, like so. Okay, and that's 3/4 inch. This distance from here to here is 3 inches. Okay? So 3, that's fine. And then this depth is what we're real, that's why we did this whole picture, is 1/16. Okay? Now the precision of this dado, you want it really good. You know, so it's exactly at 3 inches. That way when we apply this whole front, it'll be very easy to put this whole thing together and it's going to just snap in almost. So it's critical that we get this 3 inches with the dado on the inside of the 3 inches. That setup, most of the dado setups I will be doing for you. I may show you how to do it, but I'm not going to let you set it up yet. Maybe in high school they'll let you start doing setups. So anyway, that being said, now we figured out that we have 1/16 dado on both sides. So do you remember our old 18¼ inch dimension here? Well, instead of having just 18¼ we got the extra 16th on each side. So we got 18¼ plus 1/16 times 2. And that's actually 1/8, because 1/16 plus 1/16 is 1/8. And if you add 1/8 to 1/4, you're going to end up with 18 3/8. Okay? So 1 at, okay, so that's the second number. It's going to be basswood. But what is our front to back depth? Now remember we have our, I'm getting crowded here. I'll just erase this rabbit part. It's all on tape. There we go. Now I got a little space again. So let's see, what was I going to do? Oh, the front to back. So there's the front of the cabinet. Here's letter D. And then we're going to have our floor behind it, but our back comes to it like this, okay? So that's the way it's going to look. So this is actually our letter D. And this is our behind D. Okay, so what it is we have this is 3/4 of an inch thick. And this is 1/4 thick. And if our total depth, you can find out up here, our total depth is 11¼ front to back, including the back. 11¼ That's the worst 11¼ I've seen looked at. So it's 11¼ See if I can do a nice job here. There, that's a little bit better. So our 11¼ All right. So if we have 11¼ minus 3/4 minus 1/4, 3/4 plus 1/4 is 1. So we can cross that out and put a 1 over here. And if we subtract 11¼ minus 1, we should end up with 10¼ All right, so behind D there's a quantity of 1. It's going to be 10¼ wide, 18 3/8, actually 10¼ deep by 18 3/8 wide. That all looks correct. We add back on, gets us all the way back. 3/4, what's 11? Just mark that on here. Yep, 3. Yep, that's right. Good. So double check, check, and check again. Math is easy to change as long as you catch it ahead of time. But if you don't catch it, that's when it becomes a real pain. So anyway, I'm going to erase this so I can continue on with my list. Let's see, we got the back. So we got A, B, C, D, and E, and behind the D. So I think, oh, maybe all we have left is the screws. So now we're going to count how many screws we have. So we have 4 to attach D to the sides, 4 to attach behind D to the sides. That's 4, 8, and then we have this letter C here that'll get 1 on each end, and there's 2 of them. That's 4 more, so that's 4, 8, 12. And we need some screws coming up from here into the top, another 4, so that's 16 screws. 4, 8, 12, 16. All right, so actually, we're going to use face frame screws, 12 at face frame screws. We're going to use 4 more screws, and they're flat heads. Flat heads. And we'll need shelf pins to hold the shelves up. It's just a 5mm shelf hole. And we'll be, I had a special jig made for that, for drilling the side holes. So we'll have, how many? So we've got 3 shelves for each, that's 12 shelf pins, 5mm. All right. And that is our material list. So A is 2 at 11 1/4 by 47 1/4 made out of basswood. B is 1, that's the top, 12 by 21 1/4. C is 2 at 1 7/16 by 18 1/4 basswood. Letter D, this little toe kicky thing, 3 by 18 1/4. Behind D is 1, 10 1/4 by 18 3/8, basswood again. Back is letter E, 19 by 45, 1/4" pine, particle board or MDF. We got 12 face frame screws to put everything together, 4 flat heads and 12 shelf pins. All right, we're probably going to end up using about 2 ounces of glue. I don't think we need to add that in. So that's pretty much everything we need.
3 shelves.
Oh, I didn't put in 3 shelves. I need to add shelves. Ah, how silly of me. Thank you, Don. Shelves. Let's see here. I don't have a place to put them. All right. I'll erase this bottom line. And we'll put in shelves. Don is correct, I have to put in shelves. Thank you for Don telling me that. Okay, shelves. 3 of them. All right, now our total width is 18 1/4 wide. Okay, so 18 1/4 wide. That's from the inside to the inside. Now we want to subtract to give ourselves clearance, about an 1/8 inch clearance total. We subtract 1/8 from 18 1/4. So we're going to have 18 1/8 by, and that's wide. Usually I put the smaller number first, so let's just leave a little room for that right over there. 18 1/8 wide. Okay, what is our depth? Well, we just figured it out down here. It's 10 1/4 to the back, but then we got to add back on the 3/4. All right, so 3/4 plus 10 1/4 is 11, but then we're going to subtract 1/8 of an inch for clearance. Sometimes the back will bow a little bit. You never want your shelves to stick out beyond the front. So this distance from here to the back inside is 11 inches. We're going to subtract 1/8 from that. So it's going to be 10 7/8. So shelves, 3 of them, 10 7/8 by 18 1/8. So there we go. That is our bookshelf. Obviously that would be up here if I hadn't forgot it. It should be where all these face frame screws and stuff are. I want all the wood to be with the wood and all the hardware to be by itself as well. But you'll have to forgive me, I guess. So there you are. Let's go build something.